These 8 advanced English words will lift your fluency and your IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge score, and you won't just memorize them. You'll meet each one inside the story, feel what it means, then prove you caught it. That's how your brain keeps them for good. The world's greatest thief came out of retirement for one final impossible job. The underworld assumed she was after the treasure. Not one of them guessed she had come to give something back. Her name, one of them anyway, was Cass. For 50 years, she had been the most notorious thief alive. She had robbed palaces and banks and museums and never once been caught. She worked always under an alias, a dozen of them, in fact. No one knew her real face or her real name. She slipped between aliases like a ghost between rooms. Now Cass was old and dying, and she had one last job in mind, the most audacious of her entire career. She would break into the sealed vault of the National Archive, the most secure room in the world. It was an impossible target, steel doors a foot thick, 100 guards, sensors that could hear a held breath. To break in would be the greatest feat of thievery ever attempted. When word leaked that the legendary Cass was planning a job on the archive, the underworld buzzed. Everyone assumed she was after the vault's famous treasures, the crown jewels, the gold, the priceless paintings locked inside. They were all wrong. Cass did not want any of it. She planned the job with the patient, exacting care that had kept her free for 50 years. She studied the guards' routines for weeks. She infiltrated the building first as a cleaner and then as an inspector, learning every single door and camera. On the night of the job, she set her plan in motion. A small fire alarm on the building's far side, a perfect diversion. Having already infiltrated the place twice, she knew exactly where to go. As the guards rushed toward the smoke, Cass moved, silent and unseen, toward the vault. The greatest feat of her life took her 4 hours in the dark. She slipped past the sensors. She opened doors that were never meant to be opened. And at last she stood inside the sealed vault, surrounded by the wealth of an entire nation. She did not touch the gold. She did not touch the jewels. She walked straight past treasures worth 100 fortunes, to a small plain glass case in the corner. Inside it sat a single object, an ancient carved mask, dark with age. To the archive, it was a minor curiosity, bought long ago from a dealer, perfectly legal. Cass knew better, because 50 years before, as a young and reckless thief, she had plundered that very mask from a tiny museum in a country at war, a sacred object, the heart of a people, stolen in the chaos and sold to a dealer who asked no questions. It was the first thing she had ever stolen, and it was the one theft she had never, in 50 long years, been able to forgive herself for. She had plundered a people's soul and sold it for a handful of coins. So this was her final job, not a robbery at all, a return. From her bag, Cass drew a copy of the mask, a replica so perfect that no expert would ever tell the difference. She set the replica gently in the case, took the true mask, and slipped back out into the night, leaving no trace at all. The archive never even knew it had been robbed. To this very day, it believes the mask in its case is the real one. But a week later, a letter arrived at a small embassy across the world, unsigned and impossible to trace. It told the people of that distant, war-scarred country exactly where their stolen heart had gone, and where, very soon, they would find it returned, home at last, to the rightful temple from which it had been plundered half a century before. Cass, the most notorious thief in the world, had pulled off the most audacious robbery of her life and stolen nothing at all. She had used every alias, every diversion, every feat of skill she had spent 50 years perfecting to do the one thing a thief is never supposed to do, to give back what had never been hers. She died that winter, quietly, under a name that was not her own. She was never caught, never named, never thanked. But somewhere far away, an ancient mask sits once more in its proper place, watched over by the people it belongs to. And a thief who had spent her whole life taking learned, at the very end, that the only theft worth remembering is the one that gives a stolen thing back to its rightful home. Now, did you catch all 8? Let's find out. A noun for an impressive act or achievement. Think of running a marathon or climbing the highest mountain. Breaking into the world's safest vault was an extraordinary one. Opening the sealed vault was the greatest what of her career. The word is feat. Crossing the whole desert on foot was an incredible feat. A noun for a false name used to hide your true identity. It's the fake name a spy or a criminal hides behind. Cass used a dozen of these so no one knew her real name. She slipped from one what to the next like a ghost. The word is alias. The spy traveled under a carefully chosen alias. An adjective for being famous for something bad. Think of a criminal whose terrible name absolutely everyone knows. For 50 years, Cass was the most this thief alive. She was the most what kind of thief of her whole generation. The word is notorious. The street was notorious for its fast, dangerous traffic. A noun for something that draws attention away from something else. It's the distraction a magician uses while the other hand works. Cass set off a small fire alarm as a perfect one. While the guards chased the what, she slipped toward the vault. The word is diversion. The robbers used a loud diversion to empty the bank. An adjective for having a just and proper claim to something. Think of a stolen crown, given back to the true and proper king. Cass returned the mask to its owners at long last. The sacred mask belonged in its what kind of home? Not in a vault? The word is rightful. The court finally returned the land to its rightful owner. An adjective for being boldly daring. Think of a stunt so bold it takes everyone's breath clean away. Breaking into the National Archive was a wildly this plan. It was the most what kind of robbery anyone had ever dared to attempt. The word is audacious. She made an audacious bid to buy the entire company. A verb meaning to secretly enter a place or group. It's how a spy slips quietly inside the enemy's own walls. Cass did this to the building, first as a cleaner, then an inspector. She had to do what to the archive? Slip secretly inside to learn its every door. The word is infiltrate. Two agents managed to infiltrate the secret organization. A verb meaning to steal goods, especially by force or in war. It's what raiders do to a town, seizing all of its treasures. Long ago, Cass did this to a sacred mask from a war-torn museum. Soldiers had done what to the temple? Carrying its treasures away? The word is plunder. The invading army plundered every village in its path. Quick recap. How many do you still remember? Feet. Alias. Notorious. Diversion. Rightful. Audacious. Infiltrate. Plunder. A new English story every day. Subscribe and learn advanced words the way your brain actually keeps them. Inside a story you won't forget.